We are talking about what myth is and how it's relevant. And most importantly, today we're going to start to dive into how you might use it in your own life. And I think that there are myriad ways that you can do that. And so we're going to play with some and hopefully open up some ideas about how you can land and even give you more ideas beyond what we talk about, how it might work for you. So there's this dance, I think, in using myth in this kind of soul-based, psyche-based way that invites us to do that dance between the individual and the mythic. And that's really what we're going to talk about today in a variety of ways, using this idea of finding a metaphor that is speaking to you, finding an image that's speaking to you, and then pulling it apart and seeing what it opens up for you in that moment. And really, it's a kind of discipline about how you see. Jeanette Perry, when I had her in class, had a great line about the art of working with myth is the art of learning how to see through. So I'm going to share some thoughts on that in an effort to give you some ideas about how we might see through in a deep way what I'm really trying to get after. It's putting on a very particular set of lenses, a very particular set of glasses. And it's, a playful version of this, the sort of silly pun thing, little kids rhyme was, I see, said the blind man, and he picked up his hammer and saw. So what are you seeing in that moment? And how does sight and blindness work, and how is going deep into understanding how we look at things start to change things? So I'm going to riff on this a little bit. We see all the time, right? We're looking at stuff all the time. And then even when we're sleeping, when our eyes are closed, we're seeing in our dreams. And there are a handful of folks who may dream with taste or with scent, but most of us and most of what we all experience in our dreams, we're seeing. It's image. But for all of that time that we have that we're visioning things, I think it's worth asking the question, how much are we actually seeing? I was in a yoga class a couple weeks ago, and the teacher mentioned that in the course of 24 hours, most of us draw about 20,000 breaths. 20,000 breaths in 24 hours. It's a lot. And she asked in this class, how many of those breaths are we actually present for? And I don't know about you, but my answer was not too many. And I think sight is the same way. We are seeing things, but we're not necessarily present. And so I want to ask you to think about how many moments in your day between blinks and between REMs are you present for? I think myth both invites that look through, but it's always fracturing our sense of what we're seeing. And there's something, the next time you have a chance to, if you're near a window that has multiple panes, just spend a couple minutes just looking through it and see how differently you actually see what's outside based on how those panes are framing what you're looking at. Because you're going to see one part of the landscape very differently. You're going to see light differently. Things are going to be framed differently. And that, I think, helps us start to understand how we frame things in less literal of a way. We can see things in very imaginal ways. I think one of the great moments of this is in Macbeth, when Macbeth's wife, who sees the dagger before her, and she sees in that moment her way to claiming the throne. And what's really cool about that piece of writing and that piece of storytelling, I think, is that Shakespeare has given us a moment. She is seeing as far in as the glory of her future. We, as the audience who are watching her through our framing, are actually seeing further, and we are going to see the moment that this is the moment that she and her husband are ultimately damned. We've seen through at that moment. We've gone through. So or Tiresias is another example of sort of that move way far in. So we see through. Oedipus is ranting about what he's done and all of the things he's spent a lifetime trying to avoid. And we see Oedipus's downfall coming. We see the horror. We see the despair, the tragedy that's going to accompany it. But if we're really seeing through, we see our own moments as Oedipus, where we're destroying the things and the people around us that we love most. And we don't mostly have a Tiresias to help us with that. But of course, Tiresias wasn't able to help Oedipus. So there's, I think, an interesting tension in when does seeing through help and when does it not? And how can we work that and understand that, Oedipus in his moment that he actually sees through, he blinds himself physically.